The relentless sun blazed high in the sky as Benson wiped the sweat from his forehead. Despite the scorching heat, the loud symphony of hammers, drills, and heavy machinery roared relentlessly across the vast construction site. Dust, thick and pervasive, hung in the air as workers toiled tirelessly, hauling heavy bags of cement, bricks, and equipment from one end of the massive project to the other. Benson appeared no different from any other laborer. His skin, bronzed by the relentless sun, his shirt, a canvas of old sweat stains, his shoes, worn smooth from countless steps. Yet beneath this unassuming facade lay a closely guarded secret. Benson was, in fact, the clandestine owner of the entire construction venture. He had chosen to hide his identity, immersing himself in the daily grind to observe firsthand how managers truly treated their workforce, discerning loyalty from corruption among his ranks. Dressed as a simple laborer, he worked shoulder to shoulder with the men every day, shouldering heavy loads and earning the same modest daily wage. Only his trusted assistant, Mr. Roland, shared the knowledge of his true identity within the entire sprawling city. For weeks, Benson had meticulously observed the treatment of the workers. The managers, particularly Mr. Collins, cultivated an atmosphere of harshness and disrespect. Their shouts tore through the din, insults were common currency, and arbitrary deductions from already meager wages were a routine grievance. But amidst this relentless toil, one individual offered a solitary, much-needed ray of light to Benson's arduous days. Belinda. Belinda was a young woman in her early 20s. Every morning, she set up a small wooden table outside the construction site, transforming it into a humble food stall for the hungry workers. Her simple yet nourishing fare included boiled rice, beans, fried plantains, and on occasion, small portions of fried fish. This modest enterprise was the sole lifeline sustaining both herself and her ailing mother. From the very beginning, Benson had stood out to Belinda. He carried himself differently from the other laborers. An aura of quiet respectability seemed to surround him. Unlike so many of the other men, he never grumbled, never hurled insults, and consistently applied himself to his demanding tasks, even when visible exhaustion weighed him down. When Benson approached her food stand one sweltering afternoon during his lunch break, his face was streaked with sweat, and his shirt clung to him, entirely soaked. He rummaged in his pocket, producing a few crumpled Naira notes. Belinda smiled warmly at him. "Good afternoon, sir. What would you like to eat today?" "Just a small portion of rice, please," he murmured, his gaze shyly lowered. "That's all I can manage today." Belinda's eyes, sharp and empathetic, instantly registered the inadequacy of his offering, and the silent struggle etched in his gaze. Without a moment's hesitation, she scooped a remarkably generous portion of rice, then added a hearty helping of beans, golden plantains, and even a small, glistening piece of fried fish. "But I don't have enough for all of this," Benson exclaimed, genuine surprise in his voice. "Don't you worry," Belinda replied, her smile radiant. "You are my customer. Eat well and regain your strength. This hard work is no easy feat." Benson felt a profound warmth spread through him. Never before had anyone on this site shown him such unadulterated kindness. Most people were consumed solely by their own needs. "Thank you very much," he said softly, accepting the plate. From that day forward, it became Belinda's silent custom to provide Benson with extra portions of food, often without charging him the full price. On days when she noticed he possessed no money at all. If he had no money at all, she would simply provide it. No questions asked. Days bled into weeks, then months, and a quiet, yet profound friendship blossomed between Benson and Belinda. After his grueling shifts, Benson often lingered by her stand, and as the sun dipped below the city's towering skyline, they would share quiet conversations. One evening, Benson inquired, "Why do you work so relentlessly, day after day, selling food?" Belinda's shoulders slumped slightly, a shadow of sadness crossing her features. "I have no other option," she confessed. "My mother is gravely ill. The meager earnings from this stand are barely enough to buy her medicine. If I don't sell, she won't eat." Benson regarded her with profound respect. So young, yet burdened with such immense responsibility. "You are an incredibly strong woman," he acknowledged. Many would have surrendered to despair. Belinda managed a faint, resilient smile. "I truly believe God sees my struggles," she said softly. "One day, He will open a path for us." Benson nodded, a silent acknowledgement. In the quiet chambers of his heart, her unwavering courage and boundless kindness ignited a deep admiration. The following morning, as workers assembled on the site, an abrupt shift in the atmosphere signaled impending trouble. Mr. Collins, the notoriously severe site manager, pulled up in his gleaming, expensive car. He emerged from it, impeccable in his fancy suit and polished shoes. His gaze sweeping over the scene with his customary air of disdainful arrogance. His eyes landed on an older worker, visibly struggling under the weight of a heavy cement bag. Instantly, Collins's voice boomed across the site. "Are you blind, old man? Can't you carry that properly? Do you intend to damage my building?" The elderly worker trembled, his frail body straining against the immense burden. Benson, without a moment's hesitation, stepped forward, lending a steadying hand to help the man balance the unwieldy bag. "That's quite enough, sir," Benson interjected, his voice surprisingly calm. "He's an old man. The load is simply too heavy for him." Collins's face flushed a deep crimson with rage. "And who do you think you are? Talking back to me," he roared. "I'm merely stating it's not right to treat anyone like that," Benson responded, his tone still remarkably respectful. Collins took an intimidating step closer. "Since you're so eager to speak for others, consider yourself fired. Get out of my sight immediately." A collective gasp rippled through the other workers, who froze in stunned silence. Not a soul dared to speak up in Benson's defense, terrified of suffering the same fate. The bustling site fell into an unnatural quiet as Benson, with quiet dignity, simply picked up his humble bag and walked away, his head held high. Later that same day, Belinda watched as Benson approached her food stand, his shoulders slumped, a deep weariness etched into his features. "What happened?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "Why are you back so early?" Benson sank onto a small bench next to her stall. "They fired me," he stated flatly. Belinda's expression fell. "Fired? But why?" He recounted the entire incident, detailing how he had defended the elderly worker and been summarily dismissed. Tears welled in Belinda's eyes. She knew the immense effort Benson poured into his daily labor. Now, stripped of his meager wages, how would he possibly survive? "Don't worry," she murmured softly, her hand gently touching his arm. "You are not alone. I will continue to give you food. My little stand may not offer much, but as long as I have anything, you will not go hungry." Benson gazed at her with profound appreciation. "You have a truly good heart, Belinda. May God Bless you abundantly." Belinda offered a faint, strained smile. Inside, however, a deep worry gnawed at her. She struggled already to feed herself and her mother, and now there was another mouth to care for. Yet, turning her back on him was unthinkable. He was her friend. That very evening, Mr. Collins reclined comfortably within the opulent confines of his spacious living room. He had summarily dismissed Benson earlier that day, and not a single soul had dared to question his authority. A wicked smile creased his lips as he mused over the vast sums of money he had illicitly siphoned from the building project. "These poor workers are absolute fools," he mumbled to himself. A smug thought. Who will ever know? Suddenly, the shrill ring of his phone shattered his sinister reverie. The number on the screen displayed as private. A frown deepened on his face. "Who is calling me with a hidden number at this ungodly hour?" he grumbled, answering the call and raising the device to his ear. "Hello? Who is this?" he demanded, his voice rough with annoyance. A deep, unnervingly calm voice spoke from the other end. "Mr. Collins, I know you very well." Collins's heart lurched. "Who are you? What nonsense are you spouting?" The voice continued, unwavering. "I am the owner of the building project you are currently managing." Collins shot upright from his comfortable chair, adrenaline coursing through him. "The owner? How? How can that be? You're joking, surely." "I am not joking, Collins," the voice stated, still eerily calm. "I have been observing how you treat my workers. Today, you fired one of my best men, Benson. Listen carefully. Take him back tomorrow morning or you will deeply regret it." Cold sweat beaded on Collins's forehead. His hands trembled as he gripped the phone tightly. "Please, sir, I didn't know." The voice delivered one final chilling warning. "One more mistake, and your life will change forever." Before Collins could utter another word, the line went dead. He stood frozen for several seconds, his mind racing, a whirlpool of questions. Who was that? How did he know? Is this a setup? Am I being watched? His fear intensified, palpable and consuming. He had no choice but to obey the warning. Early the next morning, Collins sat in his office inside the site container, still visibly on edge. His phone lay on the table, and he kept staring at it, a silent tormentor. He had to call Benson. After a prolonged period of hesitation, he finally picked up his phone and dialed Benson's number. Miles away, Benson sat peacefully in his small, unassuming room when his phone chimed. He glanced at the screen, a flicker of surprise crossing his face as he saw Collins's name. Calmly, he answered. "Hello, Benson," Collins said, attempting to project toughness, though a distinct tremor of fear laced his voice. "I've decided to give you your job back." Benson paused, feigning surprise. "Really, sir, I don't understand." Collins forced a brittle, fake laugh. "Yes, you can start work again tomorrow morning, but listen very carefully. If you come late, you will be punished. I will deduct your money, and I might even not pay you anything." Benson maintained his humble demeanor. "Thank you very much, sir. I truly appreciate the opportunity." "Good," Collins muttered, still clinging to the illusion of control. "Don't forget. Don't come late." "I won't, sir." "Thank you again," Benson replied politely, then ended the call. As Benson lowered his phone, a subtle, knowing smile touched his lips. The plan was unfolding perfectly. The following morning, Benson arrived at the construction site unusually early. The other workers were visibly surprised to see him back, yet not a single one uttered a word. Some even hesitated to greet him, clearly afraid of incurring Collins's wrath. Benson quietly resumed his work. He lifted heavy bags of cement, expertly mixed concrete, and tirelessly assisted other workers without complaining. Yet, something was subtly different that day. When lunchtime arrived, Benson didn't make his usual trek to Belinda's food stand. Belinda, noticing his conspicuous absence, grew increasingly worried. She kept glancing towards the sprawling site, patiently waiting for him, but he never appeared. Finally, her concern prompted a decision. She would carry food to him. Belinda carefully packed some rice, beans, fried plantain, and a piece of fish into a food flask and set off, navigating the dusty expanse of the construction site. The sun beat down relentlessly, but she paid it no mind. Her sole objective was to ensure Benson had eaten. When she reached him, he was deep in the laborious task of mixing cement. "Benson," she called softly. He turned, a flicker of surprise in his eyes as he saw her standing there, food in hand. "Belinda, you didn't have to come all this way," he said, wiping sweat from his face. "Why didn't you come to eat today?" "Are you angry with me?" she asked, a note of worry in her voice. Benson shook his head. "No, Belinda, I'm not angry." "Then why didn't you come?" she pressed gently. Benson lowered his head slightly. "I don't have any money. Since I didn't work yesterday, I didn't get paid. I didn't want to come and eat for free." Belinda smiled with infinite kindness. "How many times do I have to tell you, don't worry about money, you can eat any time. I don't mind." "But you're already struggling," Benson said softly, his gaze filled with concern. "You're the only one taking care of your sick mother. I don't want to make things harder for you." Belinda looked at him with profound warmth. "Benson, I want to help you. You are my friend. Please, take the food and eat." Benson hesitated for a moment, then gratefully accepted the food flask. "Thank you, Belinda. God bless you." "You're very welcome," she replied. "Now, I must return to my shop. My other customers are waiting." "Okay, dear friend," Benson responded with a genuine smile. As Belinda made her way back to her small food stand, she noticed Collins standing near his car, his gaze fixed on her. "Good afternoon, sir," Belinda greeted politely, attempting to walk past him. "Belinda, wait!" Collins called, stepping forward. She stopped, an uncomfortable sensation prickling her skin. "Yes, sir," she responded. Collins offered what he clearly intended as a charming smile. "I've been observing you for some time now. You are very beautiful and incredibly hard-working." Belinda remained silent, her expression unreadable. Collins pressed on. "Why are you wasting your beauty here? You deserve so much more than selling food under this scorching sun." Belinda's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly, yet she maintained her polite demeanor. "Be my woman, Belinda," Collins declared boldly. "I will take care of you. I'll give you money, buy you a house, a car, anything you desire. You will live like a queen." Belinda was stunned. "Sir, please. I'm not that kind of woman. I'm not interested." Collins's face darkened instantly. "Don't pretend, Belinda. Most girls would jump at this chance. Look at yourself, struggling every day in poverty." Belinda's voice, though quiet, became firm. "I may be poor, but I have dignity. I won't sell myself for money." Collins's anger flared. "You love poverty too much. I was even trying to help you. You're too local, too dirty, too poor for someone like me. I was lowering my standards for you." Belinda's eyes blazed with a fierce fire. "I would rather be poor with dignity than rich with shame. You are too—" Proud and arrogant. I don't want anything from you. Without waiting for his stunned response, she turned on her heel and walked away, her head held high. Collins stood there breathing heavily, consumed by a burning cocktail of anger and shame. No woman had ever dared to speak to him in such a manner. From a distance, Benson had witnessed the entire exchange. Though he couldn't decipher the words, he saw Collins cornering Belinda and speaking with an aggressive intensity. Benson's respect for Belinda deepened immeasurably. She was not only kind, but also remarkably bold and honorable. As Benson returned to his arduous work, he murmured to himself, "Collins's days are certainly numbered." Indeed, the web was tightening around Collins. His insatiable greed, inflated pride, and pervasive corruption would soon catch up to him. Justice, swift and undeniable, was coming. The next morning unfolded peacefully at the construction site. The sun shone gently, and a refreshing, cool breeze offered a slight reprieve to the toiling workers. Benson, amidst carrying bags of cement, found his eyes frequently drifting towards Belinda's small food stand. The way she moved, the grace with which she served her customers, and the warmth of her smile never failed to bring a comforting warmth to his heart. Later that afternoon, during Benson's break, Belinda approached him with food, as was her custom. She handed him the plate, and they both settled beneath the shade of a small tree, a quiet oasis away from the clamor of machines and the shouts of workers. "Benson, I want to tell you something," Belinda said, her face alight with a bright smile. "What is it, my dear?" Benson asked, his gaze softening as he looked at her. "My cousin's sister is coming to visit us this weekend. She wants to spend a few days with me and my mother," Belinda announced with evident excitement. "That's nice," Benson replied, genuinely pleased for her. "You will absolutely love her," Belinda continued, beaming. "She is so beautiful. In fact, people always say she is the most beautiful lady in our family." Benson smiled, a playful glint in his eye. "So you're saying she's even more beautiful than you?" Belinda blushed, a charming flush. "Of course not. You know, you always say I'm the most beautiful," she teased playfully. Benson chuckled. "Yes, you are, my Belinda." "Let me show you her picture," Belinda said, pulling out her small phone and opening a photo. She handed the phone to Benson. The moment Benson's eyes fell upon the image, they widened perceptibly. His heart gave a startled leap. It was Becky, a woman he knew intimately. He struggled mightily to conceal his shock. Belinda, however, was perceptive. She noticed his reaction. "Why are you looking like that?" "Do you know Becky?" she asked, a note of curiosity in her voice. Benson swallowed, attempting to compose himself and speak calmly. "Yes. I have seen her somewhere before." "Where did you see her?" Belinda pressed, her curiosity now fully piqued. Benson's mind raced. "I think I once saw her at a restaurant." Belinda frowned, a slight skepticism on her face. "No, that's not possible. Becky doesn't go to local restaurants. She only eats in expensive places. And you, Benson, you don't have money for expensive restaurants, so how could you have seen her there?" Benson let out a nervous laugh. "Ah, you caught me. I was only joking. I don't really know her." Belinda eyed him suspiciously for a moment, but then burst into laughter. "You and your jokes," she said playfully. "Anyway, Becky is doing really well. She's dating a very proud and arrogant. I don't want anything from you." Without waiting for his furious retort, she turned and walked away, her head held high. Collins stood there, breathing heavily, consumed by a burning mix of anger and humiliation. No woman had ever dared to speak to him with such defiant disrespect. From a distance, Benson had witnessed the entire scene. Though the words were lost to him, he saw Collins blocking Belinda's path and speaking to her with an aggressive intensity. Benson's respect for Belinda surged even higher. She was not only a fount of kindness, but also fiercely bold and honorable. As Benson returned to his labor, he whispered to himself, "Collins's days are truly numbered." Indeed, the intricate web of consequences was tightening around Collins. His insatiable greed, inflated pride, and rampant corruption were rapidly closing in on him. Justice, long awaited, was finally drawing near. The following morning brought a quiet serenity to the construction site. The sun shone gently, and a refreshing, cool breeze provided a welcome respite for the workers. Benson, as he dutifully carried bags of cement, found his gaze drifting from time to time towards Belinda's humble food stand. The way she moved, the attentiveness with which she served her customers, and her ever-present smile never failed to warm his heart. Later that afternoon, during Benson's break, Belinda approached him with food, a gesture that had become a cherished ritual. She handed him the plate, and they both settled beneath a small, solitary tree, finding a moment of quiet away from the incessant clamor of machines and the shouts of the other workers. "Benson, I have something wonderful to tell you," Belinda said, her face radiant with a bright smile. "What is it, my dear?" Benson asked, his eyes soft as he looked at her. "My cousin's sister is coming to visit us this weekend. She wants to spend a few days with me and my mother," Belinda announced, bubbling with excitement. "That's lovely," Benson replied, genuinely pleased. "You will absolutely adore her," Belinda continued, her enthusiasm infectious. "She is so incredibly beautiful. In fact, people always say she is the most beautiful lady in our entire family." Benson smiled, a teasing glint in his eye. "So you're saying she's more beautiful than you?" Belinda blushed charmingly. "Of course not. You know, you always say, 'I'm the most beautiful,'" she retorted playfully. Benson laughed softly. "Yes, you are, my Belinda." "Let me show you her picture," Belinda said, pulling out her small phone and opening a photograph. She handed the phone to Benson. The moment Benson looked at the image, his eyes widened perceptibly. His heart performed a startled leap in his chest. It was Becky, a woman he already knew. He fought desperately to conceal his profound shock. Belinda, however, was perceptive. She noticed his sudden reaction. "Why are you looking like that? Do you know Becky?" she asked, a curious note in her voice. Benson swallowed hard, striving to regain his composure and speak calmly. "Yes. No, I have seen her somewhere before." "Where did you see her?" Belinda pressed, her curiosity now fully piqued. Benson's mind raced, searching for a plausible explanation. "I think I once saw her at a restaurant." Belinda's brow furrowed in disbelief. "No, that's not possible. Becky doesn't go to local restaurants. She only eats in expensive places. And you, Benson, you don't have money for expensive restaurants. So how could you have seen her there?" Benson let out a nervous, forced laugh. "Ah, you caught me. I was only joking. I don't really know her." Belinda looked at him with a hint of suspicion for a moment, but then a genuine laugh escaped out her. "You and your jokes," she chuckled. "Anyway, Becky is doing exceptionally well. She's dating a very rich man. I don't know who he is, but she says he's very wealthy, handsome, and powerful. Benson smiled and teased again. More handsome than me? Belinda instantly retorted, her voice firm. No, never. You are the most handsome man in the entire world. Benson's heart melted at her sincere words. He gazed deeply into her eyes. The moment felt extraordinarily special, as if the world had paused, just for them. Belinda, Benson said softly, his voice thick with emotion. Yes, she replied, meeting his gaze. I don't want to waste any more time or hide my feelings any longer, he began, his voice earnest. From the very first day I met you, your kindness touched my heart in a way I never thought possible. You possess a truly beautiful soul. You gave me food when I had nothing. You stood by me when I was fired. You are special, Belinda. I love you so much. Belinda's eyes became moist, brimming with tears. She was surprised, yet overwhelmed with happiness to finally hear those words. Belinda, please be my woman, Benson continued, his voice tender. Let's build a future together. I may not have much now, but I promise to always love you with all my heart. Belinda smiled through her tears as one rolled gently down her cheek. Benson, I have loved you for a very long time, too. I was only waiting for you to say it. Yes, I will be your woman. They both laughed softly, a shared moment of pure joy, and intertwined their hands. Then, slowly, they leaned towards each other and shared a tender kiss beneath the shade of the tree. For that fleeting moment, nothing else in the world mattered. It was just the two of them, two humble souls who had unexpectedly found profound love amidst their daily struggles. But their sweet, intimate moment was abruptly shattered. Suddenly, an angry voice boomed from behind them. What is going on here? It was Mr. Collins. Benson and Belinda quickly sprang to their feet. Collins stomped towards them, his eyes blazing with fury. So, this is the reason you rejected me, Belinda, because of this poor, ugly laborer, Collins shouted, his finger jabbing accusingly at Benson. Belinda stood her ground, her voice unwavering and bold. Yes, that's exactly right. Benson is the man I love. He is kind, humble, and far better than you in every single way. Collins let out a harsh, wicked laugh. Better than me? This useless man that carries cement? He has nothing, Belinda. Nothing. I offered you riches, but you chose poverty. I chose love, not money, Belinda shot back, her voice ringing with conviction. Benson is more handsome, more intelligent, and far more respectful than your arrogant, ugly self. Collins's face turned a dangerous shade of red, his pride deeply wounded. He took a menacing step closer to Belinda, raising his hand as if to strike her. Instantly, Benson stepped in front of her, shielding her. Don't you dare lay your hand on her, Benson warned, his voice firm and fearless, a new authority in his tone. Or what? What will you do, you useless boy? Collins mocked, his fear momentarily masked by bluster. Benson's gaze locked directly onto Collins. If you touch her, you will see a side of me you don't want to see. I will deal with your arrogant, ugly self. Collins instinctively recoiled slightly. He could sense that Benson was absolutely serious. There was an unnerving boldness in Benson's eyes that made Collins feel a flicker of genuine fear. Trying to conceal his apprehension, Collins resorted to shouting once more. You will regret this, Benson. You will not be paid. I will deduct all your salary. Benson smiled calmly, a knowing look on his face. Do whatever you want, Collins. Your days of wickedness are coming to an end. Collins gritted his teeth, his face contorted with rage, and stormed away, leaving Benson and Belinda standing together. After Collins left, Belinda turned to Benson, her eyes shimmering. "Thank you for standing up for me," she said softly. Benson smiled and gently held her hand. "I will always protect you, Belinda. Nobody will ever harm you while I am here." Belinda nodded, tears still in her eyes. "I believe you." As they walked back to Belinda's food stand, hand in hand, Benson's mind raced. Collins was becoming increasingly dangerous. The days that followed the confession of Benson and Belinda's love passed quietly. They were happier than they had ever been. Every morning, Benson would stop by Belinda's food stand before work. And they would chat and smile, like two young lovers, their hearts brimming with hope. But not everyone shared their joy. Collins seethed with a burning rage ever since Belinda had rejected him and chosen Benson. His wounded pride simply could not fathom that a poor girl dared to spurn his opulent offer. Every time he saw them together on the site, laughing and talking, his jealousy burned hotter, a corrosive fire in his gut. One evening, as Collins sat in his car outside the site, staring malevolently at Belinda's small food stand, dark thoughts began to swirl in his mind. "No woman rejects me and goes free," he muttered to himself, a chilling resolve in his voice. "If she wants to choose that useless Benson over me, she must suffer." Collins picked up his phone and made a call to a group of notorious street thugs he occasionally hired for unsavory tasks. "Tomorrow morning you will go to that girl's food stand," he ordered, his voice cold. "Destroy everything. Burn her umbrella, scatter all her food, and smash her table. But do not touch her. I only want to send her a warning." The boys laughed wickedly on the other end. "Don't worry, boss. Consider it done." The next morning began like any other ordinary day. Belinda rose early, meticulously prepared food for the workers, and arranged her small table neatly by the roadside. She smiled as customers approached, eager to buy her rice, beans, and plantains. Then, suddenly, around 10 a.m., a group of 5 unfamiliar men walked purposefully towards her stand. Their faces looked menacing, and their eyes were filled with unmistakable malice. Before Belinda could even utter a word to ask who they were, they violently began kicking her food containers, shattering her wooden table, and throwing her cooking pots onto the ground. The boiling pot of rice spilled everywhere, and the plates shattered with a deafening crash. "Please stop! Why are you doing this?" Belinda cried, frantically attempting to halt their destructive rampage. But they merely shoved her aside. "Next time, learn how to respect our boss, Mr. Collins," one of the men snarled before they abruptly turned and walked away. Belinda stood there, utterly helpless, watching all her painstaking hard work ruined in mere minutes. Tears streamed down her face. One of her neighbors rushed to her side. "Belinda, you need to call Benson. This is pure wickedness." With trembling hands, Belinda fumbled for her phone and immediately dialed Benson's number. At that precise moment, Benson was at home, taking his day off. When his phone rang, he saw Belinda's name flash across the screen. The moment he answered, all he could hear was her heartbreaking sobs. "Benson, they destroyed everything," she choked out, sobbing loudly. "What? Calm down, Belinda. Who destroyed what?" Benson's voice rose sharply, a sudden alarm in his tone. "My stand! My food! They destroyed everything! It was Collins! No, he sent them! She cried, her voice cracking. Benson stood up instantly, his heart boiling with a fierce protective anger. This is enough! Collins has crossed the line! Benson shouted, his breathing heavy with suppressed fury. Stay exactly where you are. Belinda, I'm coming, he said and ended the call. But even as he dropped the phone, Benson made another swift call. Not to Belinda, but to Mr. Roland. Roland, listen to me carefully, Benson said firmly, his voice sharp with determination. Yes, sir? Roland responded promptly. Activate the plan. Collins has gone too far. Call the police. Everything is ready. I want Collins arrested immediately. Yes, sir. The police are already on standby. We have all the evidence prepared. He will be arrested today, Roland confirmed. Good, Benson replied. Let's end this now. About an hour later, 2 police vans drove purposefully into the construction site. Inside his site office, Collins sat as usual, feeling a perverse sense of satisfaction. He smiled to himself, relishing the thought of how he had taught Belinda a harsh lesson. That will teach her to respect me, he mumbled, a smug smirk on his face. Suddenly, his door flew open with an explosive force. Mr. Collins! A police inspector called out sharply. Collins shot to his feet, utterly shocked. Yes? What's going on? You are under arrest for destruction of property, harassment, fraud, stealing company funds, and several other crimes, the inspector declared, his voice flat and authoritative. Collins's face went instantly pale. His hands began to tremble uncontrollably. What arrest? On whose order? I don't understand. The officer produced an arrest warrant. We have all the evidence. You're finished. The officers moved swiftly, snapping handcuffs onto Collins's wrists. This must be a mistake. I want to speak to the building owner, Collins shouted frantically as they began to drag him out of the office. The inspector replied coldly, You will meet him very soon. Meanwhile, Belinda was still standing amidst the wreckage of her broken stand when Benson arrived. She was wiping fresh tears from her face, trying in vain to gather the shattered pieces of her livelihood. Belinda, Benson called gently. She turned around and saw him. The moment her eyes met Benson's, she ran directly into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. My stand is gone, Benson. I don't know what to do anymore. Benson hugged her tightly, pulling her close. Don't cry, my dear. Everything will be okay now. I promise you this will never happen again. Belinda looked up, her eyes wide and confused. What do you mean? Did something happen? Benson smiled, a hint of triumph in his eyes. Yes, Collins has just been arrested. He will not trouble you again. Belinda gasped, her voice a mere whisper. Arrested? Really? How? Benson held her hands, his grip firm and comforting, and said softly, Don't worry about how for now. Just know that justice has begun. Belinda wiped her tears, a weak but genuine smile touching her lips. Thank you, Benson. Thank you for everything. You deserve better, Belinda. And very soon, you will see what God has prepared for you, Benson whispered, looking at her with profound tenderness. Belinda looked at him, still confused by his words, but a deep sense of hope blossomed within her. She knew Benson was hiding something, but she trusted him completely. That night inside the cold confines of a police cell, Collins sat on the unforgiving floor, his head bowed in utter defeat. He had lost everything. A bone-chilling fear filled his heart as he remembered the ominous warning phone call he had received just days ago. Now He was locked up, and his worst nightmare was only beginning. A few days after Collins's arrest, Belinda continued to struggle with her food stand. Though it was far from its former state, she used her meager savings to buy new plates and managed to set up shop again. However, business was slow. The lingering pain of the destruction still weighed heavily on her heart. But at least Collins was no longer around to torment her. Then, one afternoon, as Belinda was serving a few customers, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She answered the call. "Hello? Good afternoon," Belinda said politely. "Good afternoon. Am I speaking with Miss Belinda?" a male voice inquired. "Yes, this is Belinda. Who am I speaking with, please?" "This is Dr. Martins from St. Mary's Hospital. I'm calling about your mother's surgery," the doctor replied. Belinda's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, doctor. Is everything okay? I'm still trying to save money for her surgery." The doctor's voice held a note of quiet triumph. "That's exactly why I'm calling. There is wonderful news. An organization has paid the full amount for your mother's surgery." Belinda froze. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. What? What paid? Who paid? Which organization?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, Miss Belinda," the doctor said gently. "It was an anonymous donation. They didn't leave any name." Belinda placed a trembling hand on her chest. She was utterly shocked. "Doctor, please, are you sure about this?" "Yes, I am sure. The money was fully paid this morning. We can schedule the surgery immediately," the doctor confirmed. Tears of immense relief and gratitude rolled down Belinda's cheeks. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much. Please prepare your mother. We will conduct the surgery within the next few days," the doctor added. "I will, doctor." "Thank you very much," Belinda said again, her voice choked with emotion before ending the call. She stood there for a few minutes, overwhelmed with a wave of emotions. Who could have done this? Who paid for my mother's surgery? She asked herself, bewildered. She had absolutely no idea. 3 days later, the surgery was successfully completed. Belinda's mother emerged from the operation healthy and stronger than she had been in years. Belinda couldn't stop thanking God for this miraculous turn of events. She stayed faithfully by her mother's side, tenderly caring for her as she recovered. 1 week later, her cousin Becky finally arrived for her visit. Becky entered their small home in her usual classy style, dressed in expensive clothes, wearing high heels, and carrying a designer handbag. She looked around the modest interior, sighing almost imperceptibly. Belinda ran to hug her. "Becky, finally you are here." "Ah, Belinda, my dear cousin," Becky smiled, embracing her. "I missed you." "You didn't even tell me you were coming today," Belinda exclaimed playfully. "I wanted to surprise you," Becky said. "How is your mother?" "She's fine now, Becky." "The surgery was successful," Belinda replied, a wide smile lighting up her face. "Ah, that's good. God is wonderful," Becky commented, settling into a chair. "Yes, God truly works in mysterious ways," Belinda added, her gaze thoughtful. Becky looked around the small house once more and smiled. "Belinda, I still don't know how you manage in this tiny house." Belinda laughed softly. "It's my home, Becky, and I'm thankful for it." After they had chatted for a while, Becky suddenly asked, "Belinda, you never told me about your bio-wo-wo-zio. So-wai-wait-your-ways." Fireend, Belinda's heart began to pound. "Boyfriend," What boyfriend? Stop pretending, Becky laughed, her eyes twinkling. I know you have one, the way you're glowing and smiling. These days, you are clearly in love. Belinda blushed, casting her gaze downwards. Well, I didn't want to talk about it yet. Why not? Show me his picture now, Becky begged, her voice filled with playful insistence. I want to see the lucky man that stole my cousin's heart. Belinda hesitated. She felt a flicker of discomfort, but Becky was persistent. Come on, Belinda. You know I won't rest until I see him. Finally, Belinda opened her phone and showed Becky a picture of Benson standing at the construction site. The moment Becky looked at the picture, her eyes widened in shock. Belinda noticed her strong reaction. What is it? Do you know him? Becky placed a hand on her chest, her voice a surprised whisper. He looks exactly like my boyfriend. Belinda's mouth dropped open in disbelief. What? Your boyfriend? Yes, Becky confirmed. Though we've not been talking for a few months now, we had some issues, but I still believe we'll come back together. Belinda's heart began to beat even faster, a rising tide of confusion filling her mind. No, Becky, this can't be the same person. My boyfriend is just a laborer on a construction site. He's very humble, very simple. Yours is a wealthy man, right? Becky nodded. Yes, he's rich. He lives in a big house, drives expensive cars, and has businesses everywhere. Belinda shook her head, trying to rationalize. Then it's not the same man. My Benson is a simple man who works hard carrying cement every day. He doesn't have cars or money. Becky sighed, seemingly accepting the explanation. You are right. They only look alike. But they can't be the same. Belinda forced a smile, trying to hide her growing worry. Deep inside, she was beginning to feel a strange unease. How could two men look so uncannily alike? Becky quickly changed the topic. Belinda, I want to meet your Benson. Why? Belinda asked, a little confused. I just want to see him in person. After all, we're family, and you said you love him. Becky smiled, her gaze unwavering. You won't hide him from me, right? Belinda managed a nervous smile. All right. You can meet him tomorrow if you want. Perfect. Becky clapped her hands excitedly. We will go together to his place tomorrow. Belinda agreed, but her heart was now filled with disquieting thoughts. The next morning, Belinda and Becky prepared to go and meet Benson. Belinda felt a prickle of nervousness, though she tried to conceal her feelings. Becky, on the other hand, was full of bright excitement. She had dressed meticulously, applied expensive perfume, and styled her hair perfectly. As they walked towards Benson's house, Becky kept smiling to herself. I can't wait to see your Benson. Who knows? Maybe I can even advise him on how to treat you well. Belinda forced a strained smile. But inside, her mind was a whirlwind of confusion. She couldn't stop thinking about Becky's insistence that Benson looked exactly like her ex-boyfriend. The thought stubbornly refused to leave her heart. Soon, they arrived at Benson's simple apartment. Benson was sitting outside, waiting for Belinda. When he saw them approach, he stood up and smiled, a welcoming gesture. But when his eyes fell upon Becky, his smile froze instantly. Becky also froze, her mouth wide open in shock. You! Becky shouted, her finger pointing accusingly at Benson. Benson rubbed his forehead, a sigh escaping him. He couldn't believe what was unfolding before his eyes. Belinda looked from one to the other, utterly bewildered. Wait, you two really know each other? Belinda! Becky shouted again, her voice laced with indignation. "This is my boyfriend I was telling you about." Benson shook his head, correcting her firmly. "No, Becky. Ex-boyfriend. We broke up a long time ago." Belinda's eyes widened, her heart pounding furiously. She took a step back. "Benson, why didn't you ever tell me you dated my cousin?" Benson tried desperately to explain. "Belinda, please listen to me. I didn't know Becky was your cousin. I had no idea." Becky interrupted, her voice sharp with anger. "You never mentioned me to her. Why are you acting like we were nothing?" Benson's voice rose slightly, his calm demeanor replaced by a serious intensity. "Becky, we are nothing. We broke up because of your behavior. You only cared about money, Becky. You asked me for huge amounts of money all the time. And when I refused, you started sleeping with other wealthy men behind my back." Belinda's mouth dropped open. She turned to Becky, her voice laced with disbelief. "Becky, is this true?" Becky shouted. "Don't listen to him, Belinda. He is twisting everything." But Benson continued, unwavering. "You know very well what you did. I caught you red-handed. You betrayed me, Becky. That's why I walked away from you. I cut you off completely." Becky screamed again, ignoring his words entirely. "But you're rich. Why didn't you give me the money I asked for? You have millions, but refused to take care of me. What kind of boyfriend are you?" Benson shook his head. "Because I wanted a woman who loved me, not my money. But you were greedy. All you ever talked about was money, designer bags, vacations, and expensive gifts." Becky shrieked. "So now you choose my poor cousin over me. You, Benson, are wicked." Belinda was still reeling in shock, her hands trembling. "Benson, you hid this from me all this time. You knew all this but never told me." "Belinda, I swear I didn't know she was your cousin," Benson pleaded, his voice desperate. "I didn't know you two were related until when you showed me her picture. I was confused and scared to tell you, but I wanted to explain." Belinda shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "You should have told me immediately, Benson. You kept it a secret. You lied to me." "Belinda, please, I didn't lie to you. I was only afraid that this would hurt you." "But you did hurt me," she cried, wiping her tears furiously. "I trusted you with my heart, and you hid this from me." With tears streaming down her face, Belinda turned and ran away, leaving Benson standing helpless. Becky remained, a triumphant smirk spreading across her face as she crossed her arms. "You see? She has left you. Now it's only me and you." Benson stared at her, anger blazing in his eyes. "You are insane, Becky." Becky took a confident step closer. "Why are you pretending? You know you still love me. I was your first love." "You were my biggest mistake," Benson shouted, his voice ringing with contempt. "And I thank God every day that I found out your true character." Becky's voice turned cold, a chilling edge to her words. "I still love you, Benson, and I know you will come back to me." "Never," Benson said strongly, his voice unwavering. "I am done with you, Becky. You are fake. You lied about your life, your family, and everything else. You even told me before that all your family members are rich. You made me believe your family was full of billionaires." Becky rolled her eyes dismissively. "So what? I only said that to make myself look good." Benson shook his head, a look of profound disgust on his face. "You are shameless. You are nothing but a spoiled child who believes money can buy love." Becky's face darkened, a menacing glint in her eyes. "If I can't have you, then nobody will," she shouted. "Leave my house, Becky, and never come back here again," Benson warned, his voice sharp with finality. Becky pointed at him, her voice escalating to a scream. "You will regret this, Benson! Mark my words! If I can't have you, nobody else will!" But Benson didn't flinch. "Get out!" he commanded, his voice cold. Realizing she had lost, Becky finally turned and stormed out of the house, her heels clicking loudly on the pavement as she walked away in a fit of furious anger. Benson sank onto the chair, burying his face in his hands. His heart felt heavy, a dull ache spreading through him. He had lost Belinda, the only woman who truly loved him. All because of Becky's unexpected, unwelcome return. But he was not ready to give up on Belinda. He knew he had to fight for her love and explain everything properly, clarify every misunderstanding. His love for Belinda was too strong to let go. Far away, Belinda sat beneath a sprawling mango tree, tears streaming down her face. Her heart was shattered. She felt betrayed, confused, and deeply, irrevocably hurt. "Why didn't he tell me? Why did he hide this from me?" she whispered, each tear a testament to her pain. Yet, deep inside, she still loved Benson. She just needed time to process everything, time to think. The following morning, Belinda was inside her small house, diligently sweeping the living room. Her mother was resting in the bedroom, recovering after taking her medicine. Though the surgery had been a success, Belinda still carried many burdens and worries. Her heart remained broken over the painful revelation between her and Benson. She still loved him deeply, but the shock of his hidden past with Becky was simply too heavy for her to bear. Suddenly, a loud, insistent knock rattled the door. "Who is that?" Belinda asked, rushing to open it. When she pulled it open, she was shocked to see Becky standing there, her eyes blazing with an unsettling fire. Becky pushed the door wide open and strode into the house without an invitation. "What are you doing here, Becky?" Belinda asked, surprised and wary. Becky's voice was loud and brimming with uncontrolled anger. "You little witch! You think you can steal my man from me?" Belinda recoiled, utterly bewildered. "Becky, what are you saying? He is not your man. He broke up with you a long time ago." "Shut up!" Becky shouted, her face contorted with fury. "You don't know anything. We may have had little issues, but he still loves me. You are forcing yourself on him." Belinda shook her head in disbelief. "Becky, I thought we were family." "Family with someone like you?" "Never." Becky laughed, a cruel, wicked sound. "How can I call a dirty, poor, local girl like you my family? Look at you. You are nothing but a beggar feeding from my leftovers." Belinda's eyes turned red with anger, but she fought hard to control herself. "Becky, this is not necessary." Becky moved closer, pointing her finger. "Sari, a bussin' in Belinda's face. Listen to me carefully. Stay away from my man, or else you and your sick mother will vanish from this world forever." Belinda's heart began to pound furiously. She looked at Becky, a potent mix of fear and anger swirling within her. But this time, she refused to remain silent. "You have crossed the line, Becky. You may insult me, but don't you dare threaten my mother," Belinda shouted back, her voice shaking but firm. Becky laughed loudly, a scornful, derisive sound. "What can you do, you poor fool? You think you can challenge me? My father may not be around, but my mother has connections everywhere. I can destroy you." Belinda had reached her limit. "At least I know my mother is poor, but she is honorable. She has never slept around like your useless mother who has 5 children for 5 different men." Becky froze in shock as the scathing words pierced her ears. Belinda continued, now consumed by a righteous anger. Yes, like mother, like daughter, you are nothing but a copy of your mother's shameful life. You live your life begging men for money, opening your legs for anyone who has cash, and you think you're better than me? Becky's face turned a furious shade of red, a mix of embarrassment and explosive rage. You fool! How dare you talk to me like that? I dare because I'm not afraid of you, Belinda shouted back, her voice ringing with defiance. I will never leave Benson for you, never! You can go and rot in your dirty pride. Becky shook her head, her body trembling with unspent fury, and stormed towards the door. Mark my words, Belinda, you will regret this. If I can't have Benson, you won't have him either. She slammed the door shut with a resounding crash, her heels echoing loudly as she walked away in a fit of furious anger. A few minutes after Becky left, Belinda sank onto a chair, breathing heavily. She was angry, yet filled with a fierce pride that she had finally stood up for herself. Her mother had heard the shouting from the bedroom, but was too weak to come out. Suddenly, there was another knock on the door, this time soft and hesitant. Belinda stood up slowly, still wiping traces of tears from her face. When she opened the door, she saw Benson standing there with his best friend, Henry. Benson looked at her, his eyes filled with a profound pain and regret. Belinda, please, he said softly, his voice pleading. What do you want, Benson? Belinda asked, her voice trembling slightly. I came to explain everything to you, he said, taking a tentative step closer. Henry spoke gently, his tone calming. Please, Belinda, allow him to talk. He has been dying inside ever since you left. Belinda didn't say anything, but stepped aside, allowing them to enter. They sat down quietly in the small living room. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension, heavy and palpable. Belinda, Benson began, his voice strained. I know I've hurt you. I should have told you the truth the moment I recognized Becky, but I was so scared that you would leave me. Belinda looked at him, tears already beginning to form in her eyes. I never planned to hide my past from you, Benson continued. The truth is, I never knew you and Becky were related. If I had known, I would have told you long ago. He paused for a moment, gathering his courage, then continued, his voice softer, more hesitant. Belinda, you remember when you first saw me at the site carrying cement? Yes, she replied softly, her gaze fixed on him. That was never supposed to be my job. I am actually the owner of that building site. Belinda's mouth opened in shock. Yes. Belinda, I'm the owner. I disguised myself as a laborer because I wanted to catch Collins and his men, who were stealing from me and cheating my workers. I never thought I would meet someone like you. Benson continued, his voice softening. While I was working there, God made me meet you, a woman with a pure heart. You gave me food when you didn't have enough for yourself. You stood by me when I was fired. You loved me when you thought I had nothing. Benson's voice cracked with emotion as he continued. I didn't want you to fall in love with my money. I wanted you to love me for who I am. That's why I kept it a secret for some time. Belinda was already crying, heavily, tears streaming down her face. She shook her head, a mix of hurt and understanding in her eyes. But you should have told me the moment you found out Becky was my cousin. You are absolutely right, Belinda. That was my biggest mistake, and I am so very sorry. Please, forgive me, Benson pleaded, his voice earnest. Henry, Benson's friend, also spoke gently. "Belinda, please don't let Becky destroy what you two have built." Benson continued, his voice softer now, delivering the final revelation. "One more thing, Belinda. The organization that paid for your mother's surgery, it was me." Belinda gasped, her eyes wide with shock. You paid for my mother's surgery?" "Yes," Benson nodded. "I wanted to help, but I didn't want you to feel like you owed me anything." Belinda cried harder, overwhelmed, and fell into his outstretched arms. "Benson, please, just promise me you will never lie to me again." "I promise you, Belinda. No more secrets, no more lies. You have my heart forever," Benson said, holding her tightly, his voice thick with emotion. Henry smiled, a warmth spreading through him as he watched the two embrace. In that moment, true love had triumphed once more. But little did they know, Becky's evil heart was still meticulously planning something truly dangerous behind the scenes. For a few days, a serene peace settled over Belinda's house. Benson and Belinda grew closer, their bond stronger than ever. They spent more time together, their days filled with laughter and hopeful plans for a shared future. Belinda's mother also continued to grow much stronger, making a remarkable recovery. Everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place. But far away, Becky burned with an inferno of jealousy and hatred. She paced back and forth in her luxurious apartment, mumbling to herself, like someone teetering on the edge of madness. "How dare that poor girl steal my man after everything I did for Benson? He was mine first, and now he throws me away for that useless food seller. Never!" I warned her. I warned them both. But they think I am joking. They will regret it. Becky's heart was consumed by an acrid bitterness. She had never been rejected like this before. In her world, men had always flocked to her, drawn by her beauty and connections. But Benson had shattered her towering pride. As she sat, immersed in her vindictive thoughts, a truly evil idea slithered into her mind. If I can't have Benson, then I will destroy both of them completely. She picked up her phone and made a call to a man named Fred. Fred was one of her old boyfriends, a man notoriously known for executing dirty jobs for wealthy, unscrupulous girls like Becky. "Hello, Fred, I need your help," Becky said, her voice chillingly cold. Fred chuckled on the phone. "Becky, long time no see. You finally remembered me. I need you to teach someone a lesson. I want you to kidnap Belinda." Fred was silent for a few seconds, genuinely surprised. "Kidnap? Are you serious?" "Yes. I want her to disappear for a while. Don't hurt her badly. Just enough to scare her and make her leave Benson forever." Fred smiled wickedly. "Consider it done." The next evening, Belinda was on her way home after visiting a friend. The road was quiet, the last rays of sunlight fading from the sky. Suddenly, a black-tinted car screeched to a halt directly in front of her. Before she could react or run, two burly men jumped out, grabbed her roughly, and shoved her into the car. "Please let me go! Who are you?" Belinda screamed. But the men remained silent. They blindfolded her, plunging her into darkness, and sped off into the night. Hours later, Benson arrived at Belinda's house to check on her, a growing unease settling in his stomach. But when he knocked, no one answered. He called her phone several times, but it was switched off. His worry intensified, turning into a cold dread. Belinda's mother slowly emerged from the house. "Benson, is everything all right?" "Where is Belinda, Mama?" Benson asked, his voice strained. "She went to visit a friend, but hasn't returned yet." Benson's heart began to pound uncontrollably. Something was terribly wrong. He immediately called his best friend, Henry. "Henry, something is wrong. Belinda is missing. We need to act fast." "Don't worry, Benson. I'll get my boys on it immediately," Henry assured him, his voice calm and authoritative. Henry was an extremely well-connected man, with a vast network of contacts. Within an hour, he managed to track the black car through one of his sources. "They are holding her in an empty warehouse outside town," Henry informed Benson. Without wasting a moment, Benson swiftly gathered his private security team and rushed to the location. At the dilapidated warehouse, Fred and his boys stood watching Belinda, who was tightly bound to a chair. She was shivering uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. "Please let me go. What have I done to you?" she begged, her voice hoarse. Fred laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "You took what doesn't belong to you. That's your crime." Suddenly, the warehouse door burst open with a deafening crash. Benson and his men stormed in, a wave of determined force. "Release her now," Benson roared. Fred and his boys attempted to fight back, but Benson's highly trained security team swiftly overpowered them. Within minutes, Fred and his entire gang were handcuffed, and Belinda was finally freed. Benson rushed to her side, quickly untying her ropes, and pulled her into a tight embrace. "Belinda, you're safe now. I'm here," he whispered, his voice filled with profound relief. Belinda sobbed in his arms. "Benson, they kidnapped me. I was so scared." "I will never let anything happen to you again. I promise," Benson whispered, holding her even tighter. As Fred was being dragged away by the security team, Benson fixed him with a piercing gaze and asked one crucial question. "Who sent you?" Fred, seeing no way out, confessed without hesitation. "It was Becky. She paid me." Benson's eyes filled with a cold, hard anger. "I knew it." The next morning, Benson called the police and reported everything. Becky was arrested at her luxurious house and brought to the police station. At the station, Benson, Belinda, and Henry confronted Becky. "You have no shame, Becky," Benson said coldly, his voice devoid of any warmth. "You hired men to kidnap an innocent woman because of your wicked jealousy." Becky, still consumed by her fierce pride, retorted defiantly. "You made me do it. I loved you. You belong to me." "Not that poor thing." Benson's reply was strong, unyielding. "I never belonged to you, Becky. Love is not about money or beauty. It's about character, and you have none." Becky laughed wickedly, a harsh, mirthless sound. "You think you're better than me because you have money? Remember, Benson, if I can't have you, no one will." The police officer interrupted, his voice firm. "That's enough. You are charged with kidnapping, threat to life, and hiring criminals. You will face the full force of the law." Becky was dragged back into her cell, still spewing venomous threats. As they walked out of the station, Belinda held Benson's hand tightly, a tremor still running through her. "Benson, I'm scared. She's full of evil." "Don't be scared, my love. She will never hurt you again." "The law will deal with her now," Benson assured her, his voice a comforting balm. Belinda nodded, managing a weak smile. "Thank you for saving me." Benson gently wiped her lingering tears and said, his voice tender, "You are my world, Belinda, and nothing will ever separate us again." Weeks passed after Becky was arrested and finally locked away for her wickedness. Peace slowly, gently, returned to Belinda's life. The pervasive fear that had once clutched her heart was gone. She now walked freely, a sense of liberation washing, over her, knowing that Becky could no longer harm her. But justice wasn't finished yet. While Becky sat in prison awaiting her trial, another pivotal case was still making its way through the legal system. The case of Collins, the wicked site manager who had once fired Benson, insulted countless workers, brazenly stolen company money, and sent thugs to violently destroy Belinda's shop. Collins had been languishing in prison since the day of his arrest, but now the court had summoned him to finally face his judgment. Inside the solemn courtroom, Collins stood in the dock, his head bowed low, a picture of defeat. His expensive lawyers had tried every conceivable maneuver to defend him, but the overwhelming evidence Benson's meticulous investigators had gathered was simply too strong to refute. The judge cleared his throat, his gaze stern, and began speaking. "Mr. Collins, you were entrusted to manage a multi-million naira construction project, a position of significant responsibility, yet you shamelessly used your authority to steal, abuse diligent workers, and threaten innocent people, causing widespread distress and financial ruin." Collins visibly shivered, a tremor running through his once arrogant frame. The judge continued, his voice resonating with gravitas. After reviewing all the compelling evidence, including the irrefutable bank records, the multitude of false invoices, the damning testimonies of the workers, and your personal confession, this court finds you guilty of fraud, embezzlement, destruction of property, and severe abuse of power. The courtroom was utterly silent, the air thick with anticipation. The judge raised his head, his gaze sweeping over the assembled faces, and delivered the final, crushing judgment. "You are hereby sentenced to 5 years in prison. In addition, you are ordered to return every naira you stole, a total of 150 million naira. If you fail to repay it, your properties shall be sold until full payment is made." Collins broke down, tears streaming uncontrollably down his face. He begged, he pleaded, but it was far too late. His days of unchecked pride and arrogant power were decisively over. A few weeks later, Benson gathered all his workers at the construction site. He stood before them, no longer disguised in worn laborer's clothes, but dressed in a fine, impeccably tailored suit. The workers gasped, then erupted into applause, surprised and genuinely happy to finally know the true identity of their benevolent employer. "My dear workers," Benson began, his voice clear and resonant, "I want to thank you all, from the bottom of my heart, for your unwavering hard work and incredible patience. For months, I disguised myself as one of you, not to deceive, but to truly understand the truth of what was happening here, to see firsthand the challenges you faced." The workers nodded in understanding, a murmur of agreement rippling through the crowd. "From this day forward, things will change dramatically," he continued, his voice filled with purpose. "Your salaries will significantly increase. Your working conditions will improve beyond measure, and no worker will ever again be insulted or cheated on this site." The workers erupted once more, clapping and cheering loudly, their faces alight with newfound hope and relief. One of the oldest workers stepped forward, a wide smile creasing his weathered face. "Sir, may God bless you for your kindness. We never knew who you truly were, but you worked just like one of us." Benson smiled humbly in return. "We are all humans," he said softly. "No one is above another." Days later, Benson orchestrated a magnificent wedding ceremony for himself and Belinda. It unfolded like a dream. held within one of the city's largest and most beautiful halls. The decorations shimmered with opulent golden hues, adorned with fresh, fragrant flowers and countless sparkling lights. The grand space was filled to capacity with guests from diverse corners of the country: friends, esteemed business partners, influential government officials, his loyal workers, and even some of Belinda's former customers from her humble food stand. Belinda, radiant and ethereal, looked every inch a true queen, resplendent in a stunning white gown, her face glowing with unadulterated happiness. Benson stood tall and proud beside her, handsome in his fine suit, his face reflecting immense joy. Belinda's mother, now fully recovered and brimming with life, watched from the front row, tears of sheer joy tracing paths down her cheeks. She simply could not believe that her once struggling daughter, who had toiled tirelessly selling food, was now marrying the man of her dreams. The pastor stood before them, a warm smile on his face as he began. "Do you, Benson, take Belinda to be your lawful wedded wife, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" "I do," Benson answered firmly, his gaze fixed on Belinda. "And do you, Belinda, take Benson to be your lawful wedded husband, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" "I do," Belinda answered, her voice brimming with profound emotion. "You may now kiss the bride," the pastor declared. As Benson leaned in and tenderly kissed Belinda, the entire hall erupted into a spontaneous symphony of applause, cheers, and joyous laughter. Guests danced, sang, and celebrated with boundless energy throughout the entire night. Months after their magnificent wedding, Benson and Belinda settled into a life of blissful contentment within a beautiful mansion. Yet, despite their immense wealth, they remained remarkably humble, their roots firmly planted in kindness. Benson continued his regular visits to his construction sites, personally overseeing operations and checking on his workers. Belinda, with her entrepreneurial spirit, established a large food company, providing employment and good salaries to many poor women, never forgetting the humble beginnings from which she came. Their extraordinary story became a beloved legend across the city, known simply as the tale of the poor food seller and the secret billionaire. Whenever people asked them how such a remarkable love story had come to be, Benson would simply smile and say, "Love often comes when you least expect it. Sometimes you have to wear old clothes to find the one who loves you for who you are, not for what you have." And Belinda would always add, her eyes twinkling, "True love is not about money. It's about kindness, patience, and unwavering respect." Far away in the desolate confines of their prison cells, both Collins and Becky languished in deep regret, painfully realizing that their greed, their overwhelming pride, and their ingrained wickedness had brought them nothing but profound shame and utter destruction. Such was the dramatic tale, a testament to enduring truths.